Senator from Oklahoma.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent the quorum call in progress to be vitiated.
Without objection.
Mr. President, we are looking at a lot of amendments right now, and I just want to call your attention to one that I think is really significant. It's one of these things where when people find out about it, they're just outraged that something like this could happen, and something that could be corrected with a very simple amendment. Now, my amendment addresses the 2001 U.S. Supreme Court decision of Zavidas. There, the court held that immigrants admitted to the United States and then ordered removed couldn't be detained for more than 6 months. So something has to happen after a 6-month period. 4 years later, the Supreme Court extended the decision to people here illegally as well, and that's what we're talking about today. As a result, the Department of Justice and Homeland Security have had no choice but to release thousands of criminal immigrants into our neighborhoods. The problem with these decisions is that the criminal immigrants ordered to be removed can't be deported back to their country if that country refuses to issue the necessary travel documents forever. In other words, if the country doesn't want to take them back, they don't have to take them back. And yet we have to release them. More importantly, these decisions have a serious impact on public safety, as recent cases have illustrated. 6 years ago, a Vietnamese immigrant was ordered deported after serving time in prison for armed robbery and for assault. Now, he was never removed because this Supreme Court decision handicapped our authorities. Our immigration officials couldn't deport him without the cooperation of the Vietnamese government, which they did not, and his deportation was never processed. Now, this same immigrant, it's Bin Tai Luke, is suspected of killing 5 people in San Francisco in a home in March of 2012. The story of Keon Wu puts this situation in perspective. Keon Wu felt a little safer after the man who had stalked, choked, punched, and pointed a knife at her was locked up and ordered removed from the country. The man, Wang Chen, was a Chinese citizen who had illegally entered the United States, as has been the case of at least 8,500 times in the last 4 years. Mr. Chen's home country refused to let its violent criminal return home. Frankly, you can understand how this could happen, and it did happen. Well, handcuffed by the Supreme Court decision, immigration officials leased Mr. Chen back into the community when they had nowhere else to send him. So that's back into the community here in the United States. As you can imagine, this story also does not have a happy ending. Upon his release in 2010, Wang Chen murdered Keon Wu, the very person that was all concerned during this time, murdered her. As you can see, this is a real problem with serious consequences. There are others like these people out there. According to statistics provided by the Department of Homeland Security, there are many countries that are not cooperating or that take longer to repatriate into their nationals. Countries like Iran, Pakistan, China, Somalia, Liberia, they're on the list. The Supreme Court, in making their decision, says that Congress should clarify the law. So my amendment that I have, it's amendment number 1203, Mr. President, and I think it's going to be voted on in the next short while. At least I hope it will be. That amendment, 1203, does exactly what we need to do by creating a framework that allows immigration officials to detain dangerous criminals, immigrants like Bin Tai Luke and Wang Chen. Specifically, immigrants can be detained beyond 6 months if they're under orders of removal but can't be deported due to the country's unwillingness to accept them back. If several conditions are met, including if the release would, 1, threaten national security, or 2, threaten the safety of the community and the alien either is an aggravated felon or has committed a crime of violence. Now, I understand that the ACLU is scoring against my amendment. I view that as a badge of honor. And an additional reason to support my amendment. It seems that the ACLU is only concerned with protecting the rights of criminals, and it's time that we stop this nonsense. And again, Mr. President, all you have to do is go out in public and tell people that we have this situation where we are forced to release these criminals into our society merely because their country won't repatriate them. So anyway, that amendment's coming up, Amendment 1203, and I ask for support of that amendment. I yield the floor and suggest the absence of a quorum.